Hello, so in this video I'm going to do a walkthrough of an A-star interpretations essay for A-level history. This is specifically for Edexcel A Level History, but you might be able to apply this to other exam boards as well. This is based on a request that I had from somebody who left a comment in one of my videos asking for a kind of walkthrough of an A-star essay on interpretations. So if you have any requests, anything you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments and I'll try my best to put something together. Also, I have made a video on exam technique and structure for these interpretations essay, which I'll link to in the comments. On that note, I'm just going to quickly run through the expectations of the mark scheme and the structure and the kind of approach that I suggest. But as I say, I have done a video on this, so I'm just going to very quickly move through these things before we look at what an A-star A-level history interpretations essay looks like. So in terms of the mark scheme, the 3 bullet points at the top level, you need to understand the basis of the arguments of the extract. You need to use your own knowledge to discuss and kind of analyze the extracts, and you need to reach a substantiated judgment on how convincing the extracts are, as well as getting into the kind of debate between them. Okay, so they are the 3 bullet points. In terms of the structure, my suggested structure is no intro, paragraph 1 on extract 1, paragraph 2 on extract 2, and then a conclusion in which you answer the question, you say which is most convincing, you talk about why the extracts differ, and kind of maybe discuss similarities and kind of relative merits of the extracts there as well. Now, you can do an introduction if you want. I'm not saying, if you've been taught to do one and you like doing an intro, go for it. But in my experience, I think you can cover what you need to cover in these essays without having to do an intro. As I say, check out the other video on the structure where I go through that in much more detail. I'll link to that in the description. Again, just going through the approach. So looking at the question, reading the extracts, thinking about some own knowledge, and then thinking about why the extracts differ. Okay, before you even write it, plan out the answer, plan out these points before you even start writing in the exam. Okay, so let's have a look at the question then. And the question is a sample question from the Stuart Britton paper, 1625 to 1701. And the question is, in light of differing interpretations, how convincing do you find the view that as a result of the Glorious Revolution, Parliament became preeminent in the government of the country? So this idea that Parliament's power grew, Parliament became more important as a result of the Glorious Revolution. Okay, that's what this question is all about. So extract 1 is from Julian Hoppit, and it basically argues that Parliament becomes more important in the running of the country due to the Glorious Revolution. And you can see, particularly in the second paragraph, this is really kind of explored in this extract. For example, if we look at line 13 to 15, few disagreed that absolute authority resided only in parliamentary legislation. That is, the agreed deliberations of the Crown, Peers and Commons. Parliament in its widest sense became preeminent in ways that had been unimaginable before 1688. So extract 2 is from John Morrell, and this is a kind of counter view to that. It's not completely the polar opposite, but it really just says that the monarch still held significant power. Okay, so in the A-level interpretations question, you don't always get kind of one is saying one thing and the other one saying the absolute opposite. There could just be a slight difference in this. And this is an example of that, where it's not necessarily arguing the exact opposite of extract 1, but it is basically saying that the power of the monarchy remained. Okay, so essentially what this is arguing is that it didn't really change a great deal. It says it changed the king without doing much to change the monarchy. Okay, so that's the kind of crux of this. So let's get into what the A-star answer looks like. Just in terms of this video, I haven't put the whole answer here. I've got a bit of paragraph 1, a bit of paragraph 2, and the conclusion for us to look at. So here is paragraph 1, which I have color coded. And what I just want to explain about this is that it follows a very, very clear structure. So the point there, which is in the kind of pink color, it gives a kind of outline of what the extract is saying, and then it gives a quote, and then it uses own knowledge, and then which is the green, and then the blue is the judgment. Okay, when it says this point is not entirely convincing, as it wouldn't have been an unimaginable change when during the interregnum there was no monarch at all and the country was ruled by Parliament alone. However, perhaps what is unimaginable is Parliament having significant power and influence when in a functional relationship with the monarch. So what this is doing is, as you can see, it's picking out key quotes using own knowledge and then reaching a judgment. And as I say, this isn't all of paragraph 1, but it's a big chunk of it. So if you want to read through that fully, you can obviously pause this and read through that fully, but hopefully that color coding helps you see that they are doing what they need to do in this answer. They are picking out key quotes, they're using own knowledge, and then they're reaching a judgment. The key word with interpretations questions is convincing. How convincing is this view? So you can see in this one, they come back to this. It's not entirely convincing. Here is just a short section of paragraph 2. I'll just quickly read through this. It says, in contrast, extract 2 sees the Glorious Revolution as replacing one king with another, with no radical change in Parliament's power. Morrell argues that they were offered full monarchical power. This is only true to some extent. While William was able to choose his own ministers and decide on issues surrounding foreign policy, showing he still had a lot of power, the Declaration of Right and then the Bill of Rights meant the king's power was limited, as he wasn't able to raise and keep an army in peacetime without the consent of Parliament. In comparison with the powers of the earlier Stuart monarchs, this shows that a change had definitely occurred, and Parliament were now determined to prevent William from being able to reach absolutism. So again, we can see the quote, the own knowledge used to kind of reach a judgment on that. Then we get to the important bit, the conclusion. And this person agrees with Hoppett's interpretation 1, that Parliament is now preeminent. They said that's most convincing. And what they do here, which is really effective, is go back to the earlier period and talk about some of the things that had kind of happened earlier, like the earlier Triennial Act of 1641, the 10 Propositions and the Grand Remonstrance, these things that happened just before the Civil War. And they're saying, although these things happened, you know, that led to civil war, whereas after the Glorious Revolution, these things were more long-lasting. They do talk about how Morrell is correct to suggest that the monarch retained a lot of power, but by focusing too much on the monarch and not taking into consideration the changing role of Parliament, which is what Hoppett focused on, he is far too dismissive of the change. So reaching a clear judgment on which is most convincing. So overall, top-level responses for interpretations questions have a clear understanding and engagement with arguments of both extracts. They use own knowledge effectively to support and challenge the views in the extracts. They focus on the precise issue in question. In this question, it's about the preeminence of Parliament. It's not about more general issues as a result of the Glorious Revolution. And it reaches a clear judgment on which extract is most convincing. So I hope that was useful. Just a quick kind of run through of a top-level answer. If you need more guidance on how to structure these answers, as I say, I will link to my video on that. And as I said at the start of the video, if you do have any other requests, please let me know, or any questions about this, just leave a comment and I'll do my best to respond. Thanks for listening.